Marinaro, the Sick Podcast, CF Montreal Talk. Joining me in a couple of minutes, Jeremy Filosa of 98.5 FM and EMFC Radio, and Sofiane. No, not Sofiane today. It's going to be Nilton Jorge, his partner in crime of Couscous Piri Piri, who's going to be working in English today for the first time in, I think, about a month and a half or so. I look forward to it. What are we going to talk about? Well, Jeremy is just leaving Centre Nutrilait as we speak. As a matter of fact, I'm being told he is in his car. He's going to give us the latest updates of what transpired at practice. Also, he broke a story a couple of days ago on EMFC Radio of a CF Montreal employee who was relieved of his duties. We're going to touch on that. Nilton Jorge, speaking of him, he went on this big rant on his show, Couscous Piri Piri. What was he ranting about? We'll find out as well. Canada plays a friendly versus Japan. That goes tomorrow. Who's in the lineup, who's not in the lineup. And there was a press conference earlier this morning. We're going to find out what was told there. And, of course, they've also announced a qualifier, a big game that's going to take place sometime in the month of November. And is it going to be in Canada? Yes. Is it going to be in Montreal? No, unfortunately not. Guess where? Well, where they play pretty much all of the time. Probably understandably so. We're going to talk about all this and much more. We're going to do it right here on the Sick Podcast, CF Montreal Talk. Let's get to those guys right now.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to the Sick Podcast. CF Montreal Talk.
Here's the chance. They've got the goal. Absolutely incredible. Cameron Porter delivers the goal to send Montreal Impact into the CONCACAF Champions League semi-final.
The sickest CF Montreal podcast. It's gonna be sick.
All right, gentlemen, good afternoon. There's Jeremy in his car leaving Centre Nutrilait as promised. As a matter of fact, he's probably parked outside the training facility right now as we speak, along with Nilton Jorge. Gentlemen, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hi, guys.
All right, Jeremy, let's go to you fresh. Let's hear what happened at practice today. What can you tell us?
Well, there's some good news and there's some not so good news. The first good news I could tell you is that Aaron Herrera and Gilles-Anthony Vilsain were participating in full training today. They both started earlier this week, so that's a good sign. I think Vilsain will definitely be ready to go, maybe not as a starter, but at least as a sub for the game against Columbus. Aaron Herrera, we'll see. I think it's going to be a little bit touch and go to see if he's going to be ready for that game, but at least he's back with the full group. Unfortunately, Bryce Duke left today what seemed like to be a right foot injury. He had to take his foot off. He limped off the field. It didn't look very good, so I don't know what's up with him, but we're going to have to keep an eye on that. And we also had a chance to see Elias Iliadis, who was here, came to shake some hands, see some of his teammates. He had a medical to take. His season is officially over in Ottawa, so he's going to be taking vacation time from now on. He will not be training with the rest of the group now that his team has been eliminated in Ottawa in the CPL. A couple of little things from the pressers. We had a chance to speak to Gabriele Corbo. It was the first time this year we got to speak to him. Obviously, very, very happy with the season. Very honored to be one of the three players mentioned as top three defensive players on the team. We'll see if he wins that honor at the end of the season. When I asked him, the season went so well. Is there any thoughts on your part to going back to Europe after this year? Because, guys, there will be interest for Gabriele Corbo. He said, you know what? Let me just play this last game and we'll see about all that. After the year, I asked the same question to Jonathan Sirois, who is in nomination for both awards, MVP and Best Defensive Player. Obviously very honored. And he said, I don't see myself anywhere else but Montreal next year. I want to confirm what I did this season. So there's no interest on his part right now to look elsewhere. So that's pretty much a wrap up of everything that happened today.
So, Jeremy, happy to hear that Herrera and Vilsain are back at training. Unfortunate that Duke is hurt, but Duke did not start last game, as we know that. It will, as much as you'd like to see some guys get in, it'll be tough to break up what is a winning lineup. For whatever reason, it seems like, guys, did we jam up here a second or what?
Nope.
Okay, so I'm jammed. So why don't I do this? But this has happened a couple of times this week. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, let me just break out for 10 seconds and I'll be right back and we'll fix this problem right away. Okay?
Yeah, no problem. I got a question for Nilton actually right now.
Go ahead.
No, but well, no, with Duke possibly not being in, and we know that Hamdi's not 100%, and is there a chance that Sean Rea gets a chance to be dressed finally for a game?
It will be special to wait until the last game. I think maybe we have more chances to see Vilsaint. Vilsaint, if I understand correctly, it's more about the sickness problem that he had the last days or weeks. So it will be more maybe a good guess to him come back and get that forward that it will be needed, I guess, in the last couple of minutes of the game against Columbus. But I don't know if it's a good thing to put Sean Rea on that stress in the last game. He had the opportunities before, so why now? It would be
for sure.
Be weird.
It's unlikely. Talking about guys being sick, as Tony joins us again.
Yeah.
I from what I heard, there was a little bit of a case of COVID in the locker room in Montreal going back 2-3 weeks. So we saw some guys coming in and out of lineup. So apparently they had a little bit of a.
Do you know, Philo, if the MLS has the same protocol that last year, maybe some privacy about that case of COVID, that maybe the MLS don't want to share those information? It's not the same thing that the last 2 years, so maybe it's a little bit weird to put that on the side, and people don't know if Vilsaint is actually hurt or sick. It's kind of weird situation.
It is weird. It is weird. I don't know what the protocol is now.
I think they said he was under the weather. Did they not? I think at one point we had heard that he was under the weather. He was sick and.
Yeah. Well, listen, I heard that there was a little bit of COVID going around a few weeks back, but it does seem like that is all behind them right now.
Hey, Jeremy, you brought up Iliadis' name, and I want to say this. We all know that he was off to a shaky start with CF Montreal. Things obviously didn't go for him the way he would have liked, but I do want to acknowledge the fact that in his last game in the CPL, he scored a goal. He scored a big goal. He got better as the season went on. And so,
he was on the team of the week. He was on the team of the week.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Ottawa had a bad end to the year. I mean, they were in second place with 8 games to go, and they managed to slide all the way down. I think they lost 4 games beyond the 90th minute in the last 8. So that was really tough for them. So they're not unfortunately in playoffs. But I spoke to Elias, and he said that his experience in Ottawa was extremely positive. Played a lot of minutes, learned a lot, was well surrounded. Had nothing but good words to say about Atletico Ottawa, the organization itself.
Well, so good for him, and we wish him all the best. All right, okay.
Yep.
We're going to continue to talk CF Montreal, and then we'll get to some other issues. Jeremy, one of the things is you brought it up on your show, on your podcast, of course, MFC.zo. Let's bring up Salvator Rivera's profile if we can. Here he is. This picture I actually got off of Nilton's Twitter feed, who had tweeted the report that you had that Salvator Rivera was relieved of his duties. Just before we continue, just tell everyone who's watching right now who he is and what his title was.
So Salvator Rivera was the CFO of the Montreal Impact, and then CF Montreal, obviously one of the big bosses inside the organization. I remember when Kevin Gilmore was let go or stepped down, whatever it was. I had suggested at that moment, before Gervais' name came up, that he should be considered. And I'm going to say the truth. I thought he would be considered because his philosophy was a lot the way that I think that most fans and media would like to see this organization operate. I was very, 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 very disappointed to see that he was let go, because I thought he was one of the only ones in this club that brought a different kind of vision. I think he wanted this organization to be run differently. I think he thought that investing more would eventually generate more, putting more money to generate more money, not so much believing in cutting here, cutting there, less money into transfers, getting rid of players, cutting corners, in certain departments was not his philosophy. And at the end of the day, probably they got tired of hearing him, with his ideas, and they got rid of him. So for me, it's a big loss for the organization.
Jeremy, I can confirm your report. Not that I would have to, because everyone knows your information is always solid, but I can confirm your report. I can maybe add on to it a little bit based on the information that I heard. He was in Bologna for the week leading up to, got back in Montreal with Joey Saputo in Bologna, got back to Montreal on the weekend, and found out on Monday that he was relieved of his duties. So in Bologna the whole week, comes back and finds out that he's relieved of his duties. But, you talked about his vision. He can have the vision that he wants, all he wants. The guy on top, his vision is different. His vision is, we're not going to invest a lot of money. We're going to try and get the most bang for our buck. We believe that we can be competitive without investing a lot of money. And you know what? I don't agree with it. But if they make the playoffs with investing $9 million on salary and $2 million of which was paid with GAM, well, then they're probably right. At the same time, I don't think they're going to grow very much. But the league is growing exponentially, and the league is actually growing for them. So he was probably, in the minority of having the vision that he had, the philosophy that he had, maybe not even the minority, maybe the only one. But you know what? There's other people that think like him, but they just won't voice it publicly within meetings. Probably whisper in your ear or my ear or someone else's ear that they don't necessarily agree, but everyone's got to go the party line.
Yeah. Listen, he's a very tactful individual, just to let you go, Nilton. And I'm sure he wasn't in the reunions banging, his fist on the table, but it was pretty much known that he would have liked the organization to take a different type of strategy in order to optimize revenue. So I'll let you in, Nilton.
Yeah, what afraids me more than that the VP was cut off, it's more the lack of stability on that organization for ever since. It's like a big auberge espagnole. Everything, the people don't stay there. Maybe there's one or two people who stay there forever. Maybe they should move those people. But for the other employees, we don't have any stability. It's always like a cycle of 2-3 years. Then after they maybe they don't think the same way as the owner. What is even more surprising is what you say, Tony. He went to Bologna, so he was there with Joey to maybe confirm that there was a clash of a philosophy between the two.
I don't know
of them.
I don't know.
It's so weird. It's so weird to learn that. But
it's interesting what you said, though, when you said the lack of stability. And the reason why I say that is, let's take the Montreal Canadiens as an example. Okay, another pro sports team in Montreal. Okay, coaches come and go. That can happen in hockey. That can happen in soccer. But sporting directors usually or technical directors or general managers, they usually last a little bit longer. Olivier Renard now has been here for how many years?
4, I think.
Four. Okay,
Yeah, right.
Before that, Nick DeSantis occupied the same role for a very, very long time. Okay, so they have some stability in that department. They don't have stability in the coaches department. In terms of the presidents, they've gone over a couple of presidents now. They lack a little bit of stability there. The VP, people in their marketing turn over a lot. In their communications team, people turn over a lot. There is, like Nilton said, there's a lack of stability in some key departments.
Yeah. And what it's weird, it's one thing to have maybe a philosophy on the field, doing some trading with players. That's one thing. But trading doesn't mean to invest less. Let's take an example like Benfica. Benfica makes trading, but they invest a lot on the players, a lot on the infrastructure. That's one thing. If you want to make money with players, you need to invest on Centre Nutrilait. You need to invest on scouting. You need to invest in a lot of things. That doesn't mean invest less. So that's one thing. The philosophy of have a small budget for the players, but having a small budget for everything else, that's one big problem.
All right, you just brought up the Benfica
Structure.
philosophy
Example. Yeah.
and the Benfica example. Let's bring up, if we can, there was an interesting tweet that I saw in terms of the under 22. Let's bring it up from, I believe it's from Matthias Van Alst, who says, laissons de nous, on priorise les jeunes de talent pour la 3e saison consécutive. Le vote du meilleur joueur de la MLS de moins de 22 ans est remporté par un joueur du FC Dallas. He says, here's a lesson for us that we prioritize, or CF Montreal does, young players for the 3rd straight season. The best young player of under 22 years old goes to a player of FC Dallas. And here's from the MLS website, here's the list of players who were actually up for the running. Do we have it? It doesn't look like we have it. Okay, it doesn't look like we have the list. But anyway, once again, there's no player from CF Montreal in that list. Nilton?
Yeah, that's a kind of surprising because there's some quality players under 22 here in Montreal. That's this. It's more a case of people maybe don't know a lot about the Canadian teams or overlook a little bit. And Dallas has a reputation that a big crowd of players. So maybe that's not a team that's a brand new philosophy to have younger players. And in our case, it's something new. But if you look at the under 22 players that we have a under 24 team, so
yes,
it's kind of weird that.
But by the way,
Listen.
I believe the 2 players voted by their peers in the league for Montreal to be part of this were Sirois and Vilsaint. Jeremy?
Yeah. No, just to go back to, the lack of stability. You guys were talking about it a little bit earlier. And, we remember a few years back, it was like, I think it was 6 or 7 years ago when the team announced that they were hiring 3 new VPs in different departments of the organization. And I think within a year and a half or just about, all 3 of them had left the organization. No, that's a major red flag for me. When you go out of your way to get people out of important positions in other companies to join yours, and within a year and a half, all 3 of them say, you know what, this is not for me here. It's a major red flag. There's a problem there. There's definitely a problem. We saw the fans react this week. I don't know if they had planned, le collectif, which used to be the Ultras, they had planned to say, you know what, let's keep this manifestation or this sign to the organization for the last game of the year, so there's no repercussions on us. We saw the fans send a direct message to Joey Saputo saying that they thought that he needed to invest more money. I don't know what direction they're going to take during the offseason. Are they going to continue in this way? Or
we probably have the sign here if we can bring it up. Do we have the sign that the members of the collectif had raised in the stands last week on Saturday? There you have it. Saputo, un homme et son péché. Which translation, Jeremy, means what exactly?
Well, it's an expression that relates to a story, l'histoire exactly. A TV show, Séraphin, which was a man who had a lot of money but kept it all to himself and didn't want to invest, and so it's a link towards that. If a little bit about the Quebec culture, then you'll make the link pretty quickly, pretty easily.
It's pretty on the right on. But the red flag that you're saying, Philo, it's interesting because we know that organization, the Impact, had some allergic reaction from critics from the media. It's like a culture enterprise problem because if they have an allergic reaction for critics from the media,
Nilton, you're jamming up a little bit.
Yeah.
You're cutting up a little bit. I don't think maybe you should put yourself on data. But I like the way you said that CF Montreal had some allergic reactions to certain members of the media. Translation: they don't like Jeremy and they don't like me.
No,
okay.
Well, listen. I want people to understand one thing, okay?
Yeah.
Like Tony and I are extremely passionate about soccer. Extremely passionate about soccer working here in Montreal and in Quebec. And there's nothing that would make us more happy than to talk about a successful soccer organization here. If this organization was run, say, like LAFC or Atlanta or whatever other franchises, we would be on top of the world, and we would make it a priority number one to be talking about this team in a positive manner day in and day out, because the more soccer fans there are, the better the team is doing, the better it is for us, obviously in the media with their podcasts and everything. But unfortunately, there's been a lot of things that are extremely negative that a lot of people that listen to us don't even know about or don't even have a clue about, that we have never even brought up, that makes it complicated, makes it a lot more tough to be positive. And Nilton, I'll let you.
And but no, if I can just pick up on that before we go to Nilton, is that, look, we've been told that some members of the organization think that we're negative. We don't wake up in the day saying, hey, I'm going to be negative today. The reality sometimes is negative, and when it is, that's what we say, and it's not negative. It's the reality is negative. And when the reality is positive, the way it was on Saturday night when I went to the game, I froze, but it's okay because I had a good time. They scored 4 goals. It was exciting. It was entertaining. The fans got a big win in the last home game of the regular season, and it was great. And we talked about it. It was great. So once again, they probably think we're negative, and they're not. And
maybe just to add on that situation, maybe that allergic reaction that the organization have with the media, maybe it's a thing inside the organization, because maybe when some employees put the same critics, then it can maybe explain a little bit of the rotation of the employees. If we have a VP who tells essentially the same thing that the media says, maybe that may explain some rotation that we have on since years and years on that club.
Listen, Nelson, this is what they have to do. Okay, Jeremy and I, we've been doing this for over 20 years. Okay, I don't have a problem with the Montreal Canadiens. I don't have a problem with the Montreal Alouettes. And Lord knows I've criticized the Montreal Canadiens many, 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 many times over the last 20 years. They know I have a job to do, and they know when the criticism is warranted. But if you're going to be an organization that just wants flowers and just wants to be patted on the back and just wants members of the media to talk about all your good moves and turn a blind eye to all your bad moves, and then if you mention them, that they don't give you a hello, or they choose to publicly ignore you when you're at the stadium, then they're very insecure and they're very soft.
You know what?
They have to stop having members of their organization watching the podcast and then going back and reporting the stories the way they want to report them to light the fire. And and then all of a sudden, you walk in, nobody says hello, nobody wants to acknowledge you. They want to give you the whole ignoring act, this and that. They want to try.
You know what the thing, Tony. Like I travel everywhere in the MLS with Apple TV almost every single weekend. All right.
Yeah.
And I talk to reporters and I talk to people that cover the teams. This kind of stuff, it doesn't happen elsewhere. It could happen on occasion. There could be one incident or whatever, but none of the other organizations have this kind of rapport with the media, because when you're taking decisions that are extremely tough to defend, well, it's tough to go and give an interview because you know that tough questions are going to be asked. What I'm saying is we feel like it's normal here, the way this organization is run, because this is all we have. This is what we know. But if you go around the league, Tony, this is not the way organizations are run. It's not. It's dysfunctional. Unfortunately, that's what it is, and there's no other way to put it. Do we have any other?
I was not talking about Gabriel Gervais, the president. I have a good relationship with him. I did not see him at the game on Saturday night, unfortunately, but I do know that he was there. Obviously, we just didn't cross paths. Okay, Nilton, you, we're going to try and make this quick if we can, but you went on a little bit of a rant on this note on Couscous Piri Piri. For those who missed it, what was your rant the other day?
It was It was a plan that ran. It was the week before the start of the season for Montreal, and we were about to have the two most important games of the season for the CF Montreal. And I was so pumped, so motivated for that game, and I was ready to consume some content about that game. And everything that I was able to read, to see, to listening was teams from outside of Montreal. There was some baseball talk, there was some NFL talk, there was some tennis talk. It was so weird. It got me so mad because it's not against the Montreal team, that the Canadian team. It's more about a general sports culture that we have a problem here in that town. We used to say that Montreal is a hockey town. It's not a hockey town. It's only a Habs town in Montreal. It's the same problem since the 80s. The same problem that we had before with the Expos. When it was the summer, okay, everybody was on vacation. The media was on vacation, so we had some time to talk about baseball. But when schools begins, it was over. It was all about Montreal hockey team every time. It's okay to talk about the Montreal today because it's the start of the season. But 1 week, no preseason games, at 2 games to decide if the CF Montreal will make the playoffs, and I wasn't able to consume any content about that sport. And my rant, just to finish, and my rant was more about, not about the club, but about the media, the people on the media who are not able to talk about anything else.
It's a vicious circle, Nilton. Listen to me carefully on this one. It's a vicious circle, and I'm going to tell you why. We know that hockey is more in the blood of most members of the media than soccer is. We know that. Having said that, the Canadians are extremely available. Martin St. Louis has been on different television shows. They've been on different radio shows. Kent Hughes, Jeff Gorton, interviews, The Athletic, here, there, everywhere. Players available. Tout le monde en parle, everywhere. Leading up to these last 2 games, where has the coach been? Where is the sporting director? Did one interview on the radio? Yes. And so where is pretty much, where are the players? You have to be able to go forward in a concept where if a certain media outlet, TV or podcasters, mind you, don't worry about us, we're not even journalists, but if you want to go forward, okay, with the mentality of, he said something last week that we didn't like, so the next time he's going to put in a request for an interview, we say no, then your players are not out there, they're not marketed. This is a big loss.
Yeah, that's one thing. But my problem it's those guys in the media, they see any game before making those interviews. I have the idea that the people who's doing an interview with the coach, with the player, with Renard, maybe saw 2 games in this year, maybe saw 2 games. So when I'm listening to these interviews, I'm kind of mad because I got the impression that he doesn't know what he's talking about. So people don't listen to these interviews. That get me mad a little bit because it's not that the team is brand new. That team is there since 20 years. MLS since 10 years.
Nilton, let's just say you said that if an interview is given, it's given to somebody who probably doesn't follow the team religiously or know very much about the team. Maybe for the team, it's convenient that way.
Of course, that's a bad news. That's pretty bad news because if you want to do some PR, sometimes the club confuse media and PR. And that moment,
I'm going to repeat,
that's not a
the
good
mentality
PR.
going forward has to stop being that the media is the enemy, but the media is an ally. Look, I talk about CF Montreal. I do the podcast twice a week. Okay. Do you see any partners up on the screen? Do you see anybody right now? No. I don't make money off this. I don't have to. They could be gone tomorrow. It won't change a day in my life, financially speaking, because I don't make money off of them. You take a look at the Montreal CF, the Habs, the Sick podcast. When we talk Habs, there's a waiting list of partners. There's a waiting list of partners. So
listen,
Jeremy's not buying a condo in Florida off of EMFC Radio. So why do we do it? We do it. We do it because A, we love the sport. B, we love our city. C, we love soccer in our city. D, there are some good people that work with the club, of course. E, we do it for the fans. F, we can't be hypocrites and start giving the media a bunch of crap by not talking about CF Montreal and only prioritizing one team, and then we don't talk about them themselves. Ourselves. These are the reasons why we do it.
But my rant, it's too abstract. I want quantity, but I also want quality on that media.
No, but listen. This is a problem that's existed for the longest time for Montreal. I think this year it's been accentuated by the fact that the team has not been entertaining to watch. So these reporters who normally would watch maybe 6 or 7 games a year, this year probably, as you mentioned, only saw 1 or 2 games because the games were just so terrible to watch. So if you're not interested, and on top of it, the games are not good, chances are there'll be less and less of those reporters watching. Now,
but Philo, just to pose you in that way, the Abs, the Montreal Abs games, it was terrible, and we talk about them day after day after day. That argument kills me.
No, but you're right. But the reality is, here the hockey is in the blood, it's in the fibers. No matter what the Canadians do, people will always follow them. So I don't think it's fair to compare one and the other. Even the soccer fans in the city, the real soccer fans, when I go to my garage league, I play Sunday mornings and Wednesday nights. They don't watch the games. They don't follow the team. They don't care. And whose fault is this? This is the organization's fault. They got to go get these people. They got to force the media to say, there are enough people that care about this team that we don't have a choice but to talk about it. And right now, that's not the case at all. And so they got a lot of blame to take on their own side. The reality is, last week, more people were interested in why the Blue Jays got eliminated from the playoffs than CF Montreal going to do anything against Houston. This is the reality. You saw my little sondage, Nilton, with the people wearing the caps, Blue Jays, Expos, far by a mile, 1,000 miles, people wearing more baseball gear than soccer gear. They're not doing a good enough job of getting out there and marketing themselves. So
there is something else, guys. Okay, we know that the Montreal Canadiens, they've been around for 60 plus more years. The culture has than soccer in this city, in this province, which pretty much started out around 1980 with the Manic. Okay, so we're around 43 years into soccer, and we're over 103 years into hockey. Okay, so that's one difference. There's another difference, Nilton, in terms of the media and the fans and this and that and all that stuff too. Are you ready for it?
Go ahead.
The Montreal Canadiens do not spend 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, and $40 million less than other teams on salaries. Do you understand? There's a salary cap, and they all spend within $1 million to $2 million of each other. That's it. Everyone's...
No, but listen, they might be in a rebuild, but you can clearly see that there's an intention to be a winning team, to be a championship team in 2, 3, 4 years. When you tell, as an organization, CF Montreal, that you're getting rid of some of your best players, that you're not playing your DPs, the message that you're sending out is that it's not that important.
But we need to go beyond that. We need to go beyond that.
Imagine the Canadians saying, we're going to play and we're going to develop Suzuki, Doc, and Caulfield, and 2 years later they trade all 3 of them. They get rid of them.
Yeah, but that's a hockey thing.
I understand.
Soccer, maybe 90% of the teams do exactly what we do now. But that very short thinking of we are last on the budget. We used to be on top 5, top 10 teams with the salary.
Yeah.
That's new. Yeah. And before, when we had Drogba, when we had Nesta, when we had Ferrari, it was the same coverage. It was the same sports coverage.
No, I disagree. I disagree.
I disagree. Maybe we had 2-3 times some big scrums, and then they didn't follow.
I disagree.
The people who don't watch soccer now didn't watch hockey before. That's
I disagree,
my
Nilton.
I want the media to do some more pushing on that sport.
Listen, Nilton. If you go back 6, 7, 8 years, okay, it was on a regular basis, you had an RDS reporter, you had TVA Sport reporter, you had the Gazette was there, Le Journal de Montréal was there.
Yeah, but those guys, where
all gone.
are they now? Yeah, why?
They're
Why?
gone.
Why?
Well,
those
they're
guys,
gone because
those guys
you're not
love soccer before. Where are those guys
No, but-
now? Are covering the Rocket? Are covering something else?
Yeah.
That's my problem. The problem is that the people who cover that team, that
Yeah,
sport,
and
I'm
don't
not
forget-
sure they are soccer fans.
No, they're not. But Nilton, don't forget something, eh? Everyone has a boss.
Yeah,
And
that's
you know
true.
what? You take the directives of your boss. And the directives of your boss are either going to be speak well because they're a partner, or you don't have to speak about them because they're not a partner. You get it?
Yeah.
But when you're
I know,
independent, like ourselves, podcasters, we're not journalists, but we're podcasters. We can talk about them whenever we want. Now, in ending, I know Jeremy has to go in 1 minute. Jeremy, I know you took part of a conference call, or maybe Gavino did with the EMFC.
Yeah, it was Gavino.
It's obviously the Canadians men's national soccer team, which will be playing a friendly versus Japan tomorrow. And they've also announced that there's going to be a huge qualifier coming up. Let me bring up the qualifier banner if we can. There you go, right here, telling you Soccer Canada returns to Toronto for a crucial CONCACAF Nations League quarterfinal with Copa America berth on the line. Tickets on sale October 20th. The game is going to be played at a date to be determined and the opponent to be determined. But once again, so another qualifier is going to be played in Toronto. But as for this game versus Japan, what can you tell us?
Okay, well, listen, the first thing is, they had their last training session last night, so the game is going to be tomorrow morning at 6:30 against Japan. Steven Eustáquio, unfortunately, is not going to be able to play that game. He's hurt, so that increases a guy like Mathieu Choignard's chances of getting in, maybe as a substitute. We'll see what happens there. Mauro Biello has already decided who's going to be playing. He's already told his players who's going to be playing. It's an important game for Mauro. He needs to make a statement from day one to show Jason DeVos that he's the man. And I hope that the players give everything they possibly and absolutely have, because I know that they appreciate Mauro as a person and as a coach. So if they want to give him the best possible chance of keeping this job, then they need to show us something interesting. As for Toronto, guys, people keep asking me, why do they always go to Toronto? They don't come to Montreal. The number one reason is, when Montreal bailed out of the World Cup, they placed Soccer Canada in a very uncomfortable situation with FIFA. It was an embarrassment for Soccer Canada, and they're not about to come back here. Plus, they can charge people a lot more money for tickets in Toronto, and they know the building will be sold out, which they cannot do in Montreal. So we need to get serious about our soccer here. If we want Soccer Canada to start looking our way again, we will have a women's game at the end of October. Let's hope that works out well. Let's hope we have a good crowd for that one. But
I think they're playing the same day the Alouettes and the Canadians are playing, by the way, which is
but it's an early afternoon game, right? The women are playing in the early afternoon, so should be okay.
We wish the women the best. We wish the men the best. And bravo à Mathieu Choignard, who's going to get in some minutes for sure with Eustáquio's injury. Mauro Biello already talked about that. He deserves it. C'est très mérité, Mathieu. On est fiers de toi. We're going to pick up on this, guys, at a later time, later date. We usually podcast every Tuesday and Thursday. You can check us out on YouTube or on Twitter at SickPod, CFMTL. For Jeremy Filosa of 98.5 FM and EMFC Radio, and Nilton Jorge from Couscous Piri Piri, I'm Marinaro, the Sick Podcast, CF Montreal Talk.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast, CF Montreal Talk on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.